Okay. And then let me mute everybody.
Great. All right.
1 second. Let me unmute Ubadur. Ubadur, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi. Hello and welcome to today's podcast, guys. It's great to see so many of you. So today I'll start with a short story. I have heard of this story. One time there were two little young fish swimming together. And when they were swimming, there was another older fish coming from the other side. And the older fish said, how are you boys doing? How is the water? And they seemed a bit confused. And then they said, yeah, it's all right, it's all good. Then they kept swimming. And after some time, one of the younger fish whispered to the other fish, that old man was talking about water. What the hell is water? And this story really touched me deeply. If you think about it, take a moment and try to understand what this story means. The two fish spend their whole lives in water. Even then, they have forgotten what water is. So we are in some ways living lives like this. We are a part of a huge mystery that we are submerged in, right? We are hurling through the space in this small speck of mud that we call Earth. And our existence itself is such a mystery. It's so beautiful. It's so precious. It's so valuable. Even though we carry on going with our day-to-day lives, like nothing matters, nothing is valuable. We have lost this sense of wonder. We have lost the meaning and the understanding of life. But there are ways out. There are solutions, right? That's why we are together here. We have a very special guest, Kuldeep Dixit. I had the pleasure of knowing him, of course, because he was my batchmate, classmate, not only batchmate, but also classmate. In first year, I didn't get to know him because he was in another branch, but he changed his branch to study physics, which I have this thing common with him. And then, yeah, we had spent 3 years together studying physics and wondering about different things. But I did not know about his spiritual life back then. It's a great pleasure for me to connect with him after so many years. And I have also walked a bit in this path and we have interacted in between. But yeah, without further ado, I'll give it over to Kuldeep Dixit. Please welcome Kuldeep.
Thank you. Thank you, Ubadur. So let me start sharing my presentation. So I have tried to organize my ideas to put it in a format that's easy to understand and digest, because spirituality is a huge subject. And let me give you a 5-minute overview of my journey before I get started into this. So my spiritual journey began in 1996 when I was a high school kid. And at that time, I read a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. And that book basically changed my thought process from, before reading the book, I was just pursuing what everybody else was pursuing, which is get an education, get into IIT so you can have a job. But it gave me a totally different perspective that there is something more to human life, and that is enlightenment. Now, I was just a kid, so I didn't know much about what this enlightenment is and how I pursue it. But I made two decisions. One is I started meditating daily, and I used to meditate in IIT. That's why they used to call me Babaji. And the second decision I made is I started reading everything I could about consciousness and the nature of reality. And that's what led me to physics. So in first year of IIT, actually, I was studying electrical engineering, which is the high rank branch. That's what I got. And I wanted to be an engineer. But then I started studying physics in quantum mechanics and relativity. And that has such an effect on me that I switched my branch from electrical engineering to engineering physics because I wanted to study physics. From there, I came to the US. I got a PhD in quantum physics. I was meditating all these years. In 2011, I had my first breakthrough in terms of spiritual evolution, and that was Kundalini awakening. It's a mystical subject that many people don't know about it, but Kundalini is an intelligence that's present in every human being. And think of the DNA. What is DNA? It's an it's a template that can create an entire human body from biological material. So just as physical intelligence is encoded in the DNA, there are higher forms of intelligence which are encoded in things such as Kundalini. Now, this is again a mystical subject. You have to work with the teacher to understand the subject. It's not common knowledge. But after that awakening, my perspective began to change, and I also became sensitive to energy. Most of the time, we are only sensitive to the 5 senses that we can perceive with. So we can see, hear, touch, right? We cannot directly perceive the energetic field which creates everything. Now, coming from a PhD in physics, this is the perspective I got, that everything is made of energy, and that intelligent energy is transmuted in different ways. And the example I want to give you is, think of electricity. Everything in your house is powered by electricity, right? Electricity becomes motion in a fan, and sound in a speaker, and light in a bulb, and it becomes a million forms, but it's one electricity. So if you look at the nature of reality, according to quantum physics, all of this, whatever we see around us, it comes from a field, which is, some people call it just quantum field. And that's the field of all consciousness and all possibilities. And I'll talk a bit about that. However, we are kind of separated from that field, that normally we don't perceive that field. All we see is the normal reality. And in some ways, this is like living inside the matrix. All of you are, I hope you are fans of the matrix. If you are living in a matrix, how would you know that you are living in a matrix? The answer is, unless you have access to another form of perception, you won't. So anyway, after that awakening, my energetic perception began to change. Then there was another awakening that I had in 2019, which is where I heard this call of becoming a spiritual teacher. Now, at that point, I was a software engineer, so I had deep insecurities about teaching about spirituality, because I thought, I am a software engineer. Who the hell is going to listen to me talk about spirituality? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm also an introvert. Those of you who know me from IIT days, talking to people is not my thing. But the inspiration was so strong, I could not ignore it. So I set up a meeting. I invited some people. This was online. And as soon as I started, there were some people who showed up. I taught them a primitive version of what I'm going to tell you today. And here is what happened. Within 2 months of that meeting, COVID pandemic hit. And suddenly, there was this huge explosion of people who wanted to go within, because outside world was shut down. And not only I could reach them, there was an explosion of virtual technology. So I could connect with everybody across the US, across different countries. And that's how this little community that I started, it grew into thousands of people. And the point is that when we hear the call of inspiration, it's actually communication from your higher self, which is a non-physical aspect of our being. And if we can take the right step, the universe will show us how to go to the next stage. And that's what happened to me. The next awakening in my path came in 2020 when I met my teacher, John Chandler. He is a direct disciple of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Some of you might have heard about transcendental meditation. It's a technology of going beyond the mind into a field known as the transcendental field. So John had been studying with Maharishi for 50 years. And after a while, he went not only beyond the transcendental field, he could tap into energy directly And the way he taps into it, he calls the energy that he taps into Divine Mother. Now, I want to make sure I'm making sense in terms of physics of it, not just things that come from religion, right? When we think of Divine Mother or the goddess or the Devi, we think about somebody who can bestow boons on you, right? What I want to talk about is these concepts are ultimately energetic concepts. And once again, if you think about electricity, you can pray to electricity, or you can build technology to work with electricity. And what I'm talking about is technological approach to tapping into the field, which is the quantum field. So I'm not talking about praying to a goddess here. I'm talking about tapping into electricity as an energy and then tapping into higher energies, which are always available. But unless you have the technology, you cannot tap into it. Just like you need a wire to transmit electricity from place A to place B, a wire is very cheap, right? But if you don't have the wire, you might have the most powerful generator. You can't tap into that energy. So anyway, he was working with Divine Mother at that point. And when I heard about this thing, I couldn't believe it, because I thought, work with Divine Mother, this guy is smoking something. Because all of my spiritual life, I never heard of people working with the divine. My concept was that you pray to the divine, and then one day, if you are lucky, the divine answers the call, right? But here is somebody who said, I can channel energy from Divine Mother, and that energy can change you. So anyway, I was very skeptical, and also coming from like this very rational mindset, right, where everything has to be proven, it's all logical, right? All of this didn't make much sense. But thankfully, he said, I'm offering a class, take the class and see for yourself what this technology is. So I took that class, and it changed my life, because I could also feel that energy, and I began to notice changes in myself. So that's when I said, John, you are my teacher. I'm going to learn everything that you have to teach. And that's where from 2020, I pretty much learned with him personally. And eventually, around 2021, I had reached a stage where I can also channel that energy through my voice. Now, once again, this may sound kind of crazy, but going back to that example of electricity, you need a wire to transmit energy. In the same way, my voice and my intention act as a wire that can help you tap into that field. And at the end of this presentation, we'll do a meditation where you'll get to experience that energy yourself. So I'm not talking about theory, although there is theory that you need to understand. I'm talking about technology, and I want to give you an experience of the technology. I'm not talking here as a guru somewhere on top of a mountain. All of you are my peers. I have gone in one direction, and I've been on this path for 30 years. In 30 years, if you focus on one thing, you can obviously make a lot of progress. It's not that I'm anybody special. But the point is, I'm trying to help you think in a different way about spirituality. Many of you have been on this path for some time. You have certain notions about what spirituality is, who are we, what are our capabilities. But I'm here to tell you that our capabilities are infinite. Our true potential, we have no idea. When I got started, I had no idea that somebody could even channel energy through their voice. That sounds crazy. But today I do that, and using that energy, I created meditations that people use. And these people can change your underlying pattern. These energies can change your underlying patterns, which are called samskaras. We'll go deeper into that. And as an example, I have had people who have, to give you an example of a guy who started drinking when he was 17 till he was 65. He drank pretty much every day. And those of you who know, drinking is a very kind of hard addiction to break. But after working with this energy for, I think, 4 weeks, he lost the desire to drink. So there are deep things we are going to talk about. But this is my background. And once again, as I said, all of you are IITians. You have studied, you are the cream of the country. You have studied, you are all of very rational beings, which is good. And my goal is to give you a rational approach to spirituality. Okay? All right. So with that story, let's get started. So let's start with why even talk about spirituality. What's the point? And here is my starting point, which is our decisions are shaped by the lens through which we see reality. If the lens is dirty, the world is going to appear dirty. Which brings us to the concept of a worldview. What is a worldview? It's a set of interconnected beliefs that create a model of reality. Our decisions are fundamentally determined by our model of reality. To give you an example, for the first 40 years of my life, my model of reality was work hard, make money, so that you can be financially secure. And that is a common model with the people that I work with. I was working in a software company. People worked like crazy. They wanted big raises. Once they had the raises, they bought houses and cars and took vacations. And that was pretty much the goal of life, because that's the lens through which they saw reality. So spirituality is a very deep kind of model of reality that affects all aspects of our life. Whether small decisions or big decisions, what do we do? How do we live? How do we treat each other and even ourselves? It comes from an underlying model of reality, which is our worldview. Now, when it comes to spirituality, there are three primary worldviews. The first one is materialism. This is the idea that this universe is created from matter, fundamental particles. And in physical reality, if you just believe in a material world, you are going to spend your life accumulating some form of power. For example, money is a form of power. It gives you social capital, right? You have a lot of money, you have options, which is all good. But if that is the entire aim of your life, it's a very narrow life, right? And what materialism does is it traps you into the prison of what I call biosocial programming. Biological programming is it's wired into us as human beings, right? What does the animal do? It seeks survival, safety, and security. And if we were not cultured human beings, that's all we would do. We would just focus on survival, safety, and security. Now, on top of that biological template, there is social programming. Depending on the culture that we grew up in, our parents and our teachers, we also acquire a form of programming which tells us how to live in this world. And now, to give you my own example, my dad used to work in government. So growing up, what did I hear? You have to study hard so that you can get a government job. And that government job will give you financial security. And that was my whole aim. And it takes a rare human being to actually come out of biosocial programming to understand that we are actually spiritual beings, not just animals. The second worldview is religion. Now, some of you may not realize there are 4,000 plus faiths in the world right now. And each one of them, if you think about them, each one of them presents a completely different model of reality. Hindus believe in one reality, and Muslims believe in one reality, and Christians believe in one reality. And if you try to kind of reconcile these different thoughts and construct a model of reality that works for everybody, you won't be able to do it. And here is why. The religious paradigm suffers from a fundamental limitation, and that is, it is never meant to evolve. 2,000 years ago, the Bible was written. The Bible is the same today. It's not going to change. No matter how many scientific discoveries we make, no matter how much understanding we add to how we see the world today, the Bible or Gita or any that whatever you have, which is seen as the source of truth, that doesn't change. Which means you are frozen in time in a worldview. So we are going to talk about an alternate worldview, which is the worldview of spirituality. And I want to align it with science as much as I can. Now, most of you have experience with materialism and religion. This is a different way of thinking. And I want to bring a man I respect a lot in this discussion, whose name is Galileo. He is the father of science. Now, if you study Galileo's life, it was not about whether the sun goes around the earth or the earth goes around the sun. What Galileo went into is something much deeper, which is, what is the source of truth? Before Galileo, it was believed that the source of truth is in sacred books. This is the book. What the book says is the source of truth. And you cannot deviate from there, right? Now, his genius was that he said, the source of truth is something that we can observe and verify. And that little shift created the scientific revolution. If you look at human history, the way human beings see the world and the way they live, it's entirely different before science and after science. Why? Because we have a completely different way of looking at the world, which is accessible, where we can find about the laws of this universe, and based on that, we can create technology. All right, so let's begin with this. This is a bold kind of pursuit, which is humanity needs a new model of spirituality. And once again, if you look at the past 400 years, we have made outstanding progress in the past 400 years. Why is that progress come about? Is because we have a new way of thinking. The scientific model, where you start with observations and you have hypotheses and you test the hypothesis and you keep going, this is a completely different way of thinking. And I don't want to go too much into the philosophy of science, but here are a few things I want you to realize, which is, why does science work? What is so special about science that it has changed the human life? And the answer is, the biggest thing that science offers is a method of revolution. If you look at Newtonian physics versus relativity, you cannot derive relativity from Newtonian physics. It's a completely different way of thinking, or quantum mechanics, right? So our model has completely changed. It's a revolution, but there was no bloodshed. If you compare that with religion, if you have a religion, the only way you can change anything about it is to start a new religion. And there is usually a lot of bloodshed, because the ideas are so fixed in people's minds that they cannot just change the ideas. But science provides you a method of changing your ideas and model of reality. And that comes from the ability to validate our assumptions based on evidence. Newtonian mechanics was, for 300 years, that was the accepted model of reality, or 200 years. But then there were some experiments which did not align with, they could not provide the answers in Newtonian paradigm. And that's why a new physics was created. And the third thing I want to say is, the power of science is it gives you universal principles and practices. There is no Indian science versus American science. There is no Hindu science versus Christian science. There is one science. Newton's laws of motion are taught all around the world, it's the same 3 laws of motion, right? So my goal is to create or help with this model of reality, which is based on universal principles, not on religion. So let's start with a scientific model of spirituality, and I'm going to talk about how to put it together. And here is my basic assertion. We have sufficient research to construct a scientific worldview of spirituality. Now, as we talked about worldviews, it's a set of interconnected beliefs that create a model of reality. In particular, the 3 questions that a worldview answers is, who am I? Why am I here? And where do I come from? Now, every worldview will answer these fundamental questions, whether these are explicit or not explicit. And to give you an example, I live in America, where there's a lot of Christian kind of worldview here. And the worldview they have is Christ paid for your sins. If you accept Christ as your Lord, then you don't have to deal with the consequences. If you don't accept, then you are going to burn in hell. Now, this thing makes no sense to me at all. But people who are here, for them, it makes perfect sense, because that's their worldview, right? So these 3 fundamental questions. Now we are going deep into belief system here. And what I want to do is I want to go beyond opinions and philosophies into research. Much of spirituality is about opinions. Somebody's opinion based on a book they read, or even their own experience, or what their teachers have taught them. There are a million opinions, but where is the research coming from? And I want this field to be guided by research, not by people's opinions. Now, there is sufficient research that can help us build a model of reality. And I'm going to talk about 3 disciplines here. Each of these disciplines have been there since at least 1960s. So we have 50 years of research in each discipline. And then I'll talk about the conclusions. So the first thing, in terms of nature of consciousness, there is a research on reincarnation by Dr. Ian Stevenson and Tucker. This is from the University of Virginia, which is based in the US. And the way this research came about is Ian Stevenson, he was a chair of psychiatry in the University of Virginia. He read reports of kids who could remember their past lives. Now, he's a Westerner. He did not grow up with a belief in reincarnation. But being a researcher, he said, okay, let me go to India and investigate what's going on. So what would happen in such a case is, like, a 4-year-old child would say, I used to be this man living in this town, and I was killed due to this reason, right? Now, it's easy to dismiss these things as fantasies. But what he did is he went to India, he investigated, and he tried to actually look at the evidence. Was there really a man by that name? Did he really die? 40 years of this research, he published papers, he wrote a number of books on this subject, and there is no other way to explain that phenomena other than reincarnation, that there was actually a man who lived as this different person, and then he was born again as a new person. And after him, Dr. Jim Tucker, who is the current lead of this, he has looked into the same phenomena. Now, one thing I want to mention is it's easy to discard these as cultural programming, because we can think that, okay, in India, reincarnation is like a common way of thinking, and that's why the kids there believe in it. But that's not true. The most studied cases of reincarnation actually come from the West. There's a guy named James, I think, Linegar. When he was a kid, he started having bad dreams and talking about airplane on fire. And then the kids Then the parents dug in, and then finally what they found is there was actually a pilot by the name of James. His plane was shot during World War II. And then the kid told everything that could not have come about by any other means. So this is, and Jim Tucker has written this great book called Life Before Life. And this is scientific study of looking at these kids, looking at evidence and understanding. So reincarnation, now I grew up, I did not think of reincarnation as like a serious thing. I thought, okay, this is just something we are taught, but I never thought of it as a fact. But these people who were actually born in the West, these are PhDs and MDs, they have invested 40 years. When somebody spends 40 years of their life, there is a huge commitment to what they are trying to discover, right? And they have come to that conclusion after research. The second field of study is past life regression. There's a book, one of the pioneering books in this subject was called Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. Again, this has also happened around 60s. So hypnotherapy is a discipline that is widely practiced in the West. And what happens is, if you have childhood traumas, that can create problems later in life. So what hypnotherapy does is, it tries to take you back into childhood so that you can look at the source of the problem and hopefully heal it. When Michael Newton regressed this patient actually went into a previous lifetime. And then she started talking about this life that she had lived, which was like thousands of years ago. And once again, Michael Newton did not have knowledge of reincarnation, nor was he born in that belief system. But he, after that first episode, then he studied it again and again, and he created an entire institute and an entire way of therapy, which is called past life regression, where sources of problems can be found in other lifetimes. The other very popular book on this subject is called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, MD. He's another doctor, and same way, he ran into a patient, and then eventually he also found how these things work across lifetimes. The third area of research I'm going to talk about is near-death experience. And the pioneering book here came from Dr. Raymond Moody. It was called Life After Life. So this is a study of people who are clinically dead. And this sounds very strange, but what happens with advancement in medical technology is when somebody dies, their heart stops. The blood cannot go to their brain. So if brain is the source of consciousness, and if heart stops and there is no more blood to the brain, if the patient is revived, they would have no experience of being dead, right? What he found is that when people died, they had an experience of crossing over to a different dimension. And in some ways, this is like waking up from the matrix, where you are in one reality, you wake up from that reality, and you see a different reality. Now, this phenomenon is so common that there is an entire institute today on the study of near-death experiences. And there is a lot of research. They have tons of papers. There are millions of people around the world who have experienced near-death, who have had a near-death experience. So once again, we are talking about something that has been universally experienced, whether people are atheists, whether they believe in a religion, whether no matter what kind of background they come from, they have had this experience. And there's an entire field of study that has compiled these cases. So if we put these three pieces together, and now this is not the entire thing, but these are, I would say, scientifically conclusive in terms of creating a model of reality. What is the conclusion? What's the point? So here is the point. Each of us is a timeless consciousness. And I want to stress that word timeless, timeless does not mean eternal. Timeless means something that lies outside the boundary of time. Time is something that's made up. When we come in this reality, time is how we experience this reality. And then this is kind of the summary. And that is, the material reality is a simulated reality which is built on top of the actual reality. There's a great book by Dr. Amit Goswami. He also has a PhD in physics and he was a professor. He wrote the book called The Self-Aware Universe. It's about how consciousness creates the universe. There's another book, which is Science and the Akashic Field by Dr. Laszlo, that also talks about, so Akashic Field is like this quantum field which creates everything. And out of that template, the material reality is created. And once again, going back to the matrix, who we are pieces of consciousness who are experiencing this physical reality in a space-time dimension. But who we really are is much beyond this time and space reality. All right, so let's go to the second question about spirituality, which is, why are we here? And this is where things get really interesting. It turns out that the purpose of human existence, and not only human existence, the purpose of existence itself is evolution of consciousness. There's a great book that is written by Dr. David Hawkins. It's called Power versus Force. He was a researcher who looked into states of consciousness. And as a result of this research, he created something called the scale of consciousness. What this is a mathematical representation of consciousness. And the number you see on the right is a logarithmic scale that corresponds to spiritual power. What that means is, if you look at the lowest things on the scale, which is shame, what happens to people who suffer from extreme shame? They commit suicide, right? Either they just kill themselves, or they stop taking care of themselves and stop doing what is needed to support life. And that is basically a path to death. As you go up, at the highest stage, you have enlightenment. And in terms of spiritual power, one enlightened being at the stage of 1,000 can balance the negative energy of the entire planet. That's why if you look at human history, there are few individuals who have made a huge difference, because they have this spiritual power, which is logarithmically or exponentially higher than lots of other people. Now, this is a deep subject, but I'll go a little bit into it. So this map is basically divided into 3 portions. The lowest forms, which is the level from 0 all the way to 200, is what I call life opposing consciousness. This is where consciousness opposes life. I gave you an example of shame. Another example is fear, which is the level of 100. Most of humanity lives at the stage of fear. They are afraid. They are afraid of what's going to happen to them, which is biological programming. They're also afraid of their relationship with God or source. In their view, God is somebody who's going to punish them. And there is this fear which is built into the very way they think. Now, this fear is also propagated heavily by people who understand how to manipulate people. If you look at politics, all of politics today is about fear. In the US, it's about making people afraid of immigrants or crime. even though statistically crime is low compared to where it used to be. But that psychology of fear, because when you get people afraid, you have power over them. Now, from fear, it goes up all the way to pride. Now, you might think, what's wrong with pride? This kind of pride, it opposes life, because in that state of pride, you can actually kill other people. If you look at militaries, if you look at religious fanaticism, those people are so proud, they are willing to kill others who do not agree with their view. The second stage of consciousness, this is where things begin to change and you begin to manifest true spiritual power. And this is life supporting consciousness. So the breakthrough happens at level of 200, which is courage. Think about it. Courage is the ability to really look at your life and ask yourself uncomfortable questions, such as, what is the meaning of life? What brings me fulfillment? If you are part of a social group, you never really think about what brings you fulfillment. All you think about is in terms of this social conditioning about what is supposed to make you happy. You never really think about your individuality, right? The courage to question our beliefs, the courage to follow our own path, even when it's uncomfortable, even when there is no security in it. All of these things begin with courage. From courage, it goes to neutrality, acceptance, and reason. And finally, this is the highest stage of consciousness, which is what I call transformative consciousness. This is so much power that you begin to change the lives of the people around you. The state of love at 500. Now, this love, I'm not talking about hormonal love. This is the power of love that inspires people. If you look at people who have devoted their lives to causes, people such as Mother Teresa, people like that, or Gandhi, they have a power around them that automatically inspires other people to do and devote themselves to a higher cause. Then joy, peace, enlightenment. So here are two things I want to emphasize. The first thing is, what he found is most people progress only about 5 points per incarnation. What that means is, if you want to go to the state of love, which is at 500, if you are an average person, it's going to take you 100 incarnations to get to that state. Now, that's assuming you don't get distracted and you don't lose your path. If you do, then I don't know how long it's going to take. All right, so then let's answer the main question that is driving this discussion, which is, why are we here? And in one sentence, we are here to go from the states of fear, desire, anger, and pride to higher states of peace, joy, and love. If we can experience the state of peace, we have achieved the purpose of being here. Now, peace is something, the amazing thing I have found in my own journey is peace is not something that's outside of us and that comes from anything outside of us. It's a very natural state of being. It is just there. If we would not pollute our minds with all the stuff that brings us down, peace is what we would experience naturally. So this thing is not too far. It's always within reach. Let's talk about the last part of this worldview, which is, where do we come from? And I'm going to give you an answer based on quantum physics, which is, everything in this universe arises from a field of intelligent energy. I gave you the example of electricity, right? Electricity becomes all things. It becomes motion in a fan, light in a bulb, sound in a speaker. It's one electricity. The same way, there is one field call it quantum field or source, and that field becomes everything. It becomes rocks, it becomes animals, it becomes human beings, it becomes things that we don't understand. It becomes the entirety of creation. And that's why the term I like to use is called source, because it's an energetic source of all there is. And that brings us to non-duality. The basic statement of non-duality is consciousness is ultimately a unified whole, and all apparent separations between self and others, physical and non-physical, and most significantly, between the source of consciousness, which is called Brahman, and the individual self, which is called Atman, are illusions. Now, this non-duality is a radical. If there is one radical idea that humanity has come up with, it's non-duality, because it's so against anything that we perceive around us. The other thing I want to emphasize is that non-duality really strikes at the foundation of religions. Most religions are based on this idea of salvation, right? The idea that unless you follow this path, you are going to be lost. And this is very, as I said, living in a Christian nation, I see this all around me, where unless you accept Jesus, you're going to burn in hell. But that the same idea, even in Hinduism, there are interpretations where unless you pray to this God, or unless you do this and that, you are lost. But non-duality says that cannot be. The example I would like to give you is, think of a drop that comes from the ocean. The drop is made of the same material as the ocean. There is no separation between them. So all of us are like this individuated portions of source, like little drops in the ocean of consciousness, which is source. Here is the practical part of living in this reality. And that is, every conscious being is our sibling. Why? Because they come from the same source. And this is the foundation of ethics. Ethics is not a set of rules that you read in a book or you learn from religion. It has to be felt within. That oneness has to be felt within, where you are willing to give your life to uplift others, not because you want to go to heaven, but you have that compassion where you see them as your own brothers and sisters. And here is, if I could compress all of this into very simple guideline for living your life, it's 4 words, which is honor yourself and honor others. The reason we need to honor ourselves is because we come from source. There could be nothing more sacred than that, right? And the reason we need to honor others is they also come from source. And that's why we need to think of compassionate and empathetic ways of relating to the world, even with people who do not agree with us. And more than that, we also need to be compassionate with ourselves. Growing up in India, I was always in this rat race where I have to go to the next stage to prove myself. I have to get to the IIT, otherwise I'm a nobody, right? Then I came to America, I have to finish my PhD, and then I have to get a job and climb the corporate ladder. All my life, my sense of self-worth came from things outside of me, because I did not know myself. But once you know yourself, that you come from source, there is no need for you to get trapped in the rat race or whatever things that are not your highest life. There is freedom in realizing that. And the second part is honor yourself. honor others. Regardless of religions or points of views or belief system, every human being is eventually our sibling. And if we can do anything to help them, to alleviate suffering, to guide them, to inspire them, that's an honor. Okay, so I talked about the first part of this presentation, which was about principles, and that's the foundations. We talked about the three questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? Why are we here? What are the practices for raising our consciousness? There are 6 core practices, and I'll not go deeper into all 6 of them. I'll talk briefly about them, and then I'll go into one of them, which is meditation. So there are 3 inner practices. What these practices do is they raise your consciousness. We talked about the scale of consciousness. If you do these practices, they will help you become more conscious and more aware. And these practices are, so the first one is spiritual study. As I look back at my life, changing my worldview, the way I saw the world, is critical to how I live my life now. If I still had the old worldview, I would be living the old way. People are doing the best they can within the framework that helps them think. Unless you change your framework, you're not going to go to the next level. So there are books which you can read, which will help you understand who you are, why you are here, how can you live a more empowered life. The second discipline is meditation, and I'll go deeper into that. And the third discipline is self-inquiry. Now, this is not emphasized a lot in many spiritual practices, but this is the essence of living a spiritual life. A spiritual life is not about how many hours you meditate or you go to this temple or retreat and all of that. A spiritual life is about how do you make choices? Are your choices driven from a higher perspective, or are they driven from a lower perspective? The way you refine your choices is by taking time to reflect and do the practice of self-inquiry, which is you go deeper and you look at, why did I make this decision? Simple question. You are doing something, kids are screaming, you come out and you yell at them, right? If you're not aware, that's just a behavior and you don't think much about it. But once you begin to be aware, you ask yourself, why did I do that? And then that leads you to a belief system. You find out, I don't know what the case for you will be, but in my case, what I found is that's how I grew up. Anything that my parents or teachers didn't like, they yelled at me. And if I didn't listen, then I was beaten. And that's how I have learned how to raise kids. That's not a very aware way of raising kids, but that's where it is. But by being aware, I can change the pattern that is affecting me right now. And that there is the key to freedom. There are 3 outer practices. And these are practices that will help you radiate light. Now, as I said, each one of us is actually a source of light. There is so much light within. If we can harness that light, that can change not only our lives, but it can change the lives of thousands or even millions of people. How do you get to that stage? The first thing you have to do is to align with your life purpose. The goal of human life is not to be a cog in the machinery of consumerism. It's not to just buy more stuff and get gadgets and things like that. There is a higher purpose to your life. And once again, let me tell you my story. Before I became a spiritual teacher, I was just doing what everybody else was doing. Climb the corporate ladder, make a lot of money, buy a house, buy a car, you have a lot of stuff and you have a comfortable life. But that doesn't really fulfill any spiritual purpose. After I started following my purpose, I ran into my teacher, John Chandler. And that's where I became more and more aligned as a teacher and as a healer. The second part of that is cultivate your gifts. Each one of us has unique spiritual gifts, but these are like seeds. If you look at a seed, you don't know what that seed is capable of. You have to plant it, you have to nurture it, and then you see the harvest. In my case, I didn't know that I could heal others through energy. That I never could have imagined that is possible. But by working with my gift, taking the time to cultivate it, now I have thousands of people in the organization who benefit from that too. And again, it's not that I am anybody special. The whole point of my talk is that each one of you has these gifts. And if you would take the time to cultivate them, you can bring light to others. And finally, serve. Coming out of this prison of egocentrism, which is life is all about me and my family and what I can gather, there is a world outside of that prison, which is where you begin to figure out, how can I serve others? What can I do to bring light to others? And the funny thing is, once you begin to serve, it's like you have a partner, which is the universe, and the universe begins to open the doors for you to live your highest life. All right, so let me talk about the third part of this presentation, which is about technology. So far, we have talked about the theory. Theory is good, but theory doesn't help you much. It's like if you know Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, every high school kid knows that. What good does that do to you? Nothing. Being able to take that equation and from there to be able to construct a nuclear reactor, that is technology. So we are talking about, let's talk about technology. And the most powerful technology, in my opinion, is meditation. But there are lots of misconceptions about what meditation is, how it works. So what I want to talk about is meditation as a technology, not as a philosophy, not just as a practice, but as a technology. So what is technology? If I give you a very simple example, let's say you want to visit a friend who lives 3 miles away. 3 miles is like 5 kilometers. There are 3 ways. If you don't have any technology, you can take a walk. And that walk is going to take you 1 hour and a lot of physical effort. By the time you are done, you'll be sweating. Depending on the weather, it will be uncomfortable. What if you used a simple technology, which is a bike? Now the time reduces from 1 hour to 20 minutes. So you're only spending 1/3 of the time. And it requires some physical effort, but nothing compared to walking. See how technology makes things simpler and it helps you achieve the goals much faster. What if you have a car, which is an advanced technology? The same goal is now going to take you 5 minutes and it will have no physical effort. So technology is really powerful because it can reduce the time to accomplish a goal. At the same time, it can reduce the effort it takes to accomplish a goal. When it comes to meditation, this is where most people are, that they don't have any meditation practice. And as a result, their growth is very, very slow. It happens unconsciously, it happens very slowly. What studies have found is that if you had, it doesn't even matter what kind of meditation practice you have. If all you did is you sat for 15 minutes every day quietly and observe your thought, observe your breath, whatever you do, within 6 to 8 weeks, the gray matter in your brain will begin to change. And this is something they can actually see. So it doesn't even matter what technology you have. However, if you are serious about meditation as a technology, actually there are 2 technologies of meditation. There is contemplative meditation, and then there is energetic meditation. And let me go a bit deeper into that. What contemplative meditation does is it's a technology of working with the mind, using the mind. A common example is breath meditation. So what you do is you sit down, you focus on your breath. Now, when you do that, the mind wanders. The next moment you are thinking about what's for dinner or how hungry you are, right? When you notice that, you bring your awareness back to your breath and you keep doing this. And this may be frustrating initially because your mind wanders a lot and then you are judging yourself. Why am I not meditating? What am I thinking? All those things, right? There is a different technology of meditation, which is using energy for meditation. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Now, I have experienced both of these meditations myself. So from 1996 to 2011, I did contemplative meditation. I would sit every day. I would focus on my breath. I also tried a mantra, and I would repeat that mantra over and over. I would do that every day for at least half an hour. I made some progress. But once I started working with energy, I made more progress in, I think, 1 year of working with energy than 15 years of contemplative meditation. So that is the power of energetic meditation. So the way energetic meditation works is it uses energy. And why is it so effective is because you are made of energy. Now, when I say you, I'm not just talking about the atoms in your body and your brain cells. That is definitely made of energy, but I'm talking about something deeper, which is the way you think. Your mental programs and patterns are also energetic in nature. Your behaviors, your tendencies, all of the stuff that makes up the mind and personality, these are things we cannot see, but these are things which are created from energy. And to go a little bit deeper into that, think of the mind like a computer. In a computer, how does a computer work? So there is a program, which is a set of instructions. That program is fed into a CPU, which knows how to process the instructions. And out of that, you get an output. That output might be the sound, or it might be a picture on your screen, whatever you are seeing, or a video. The very same way, here is how the human system works. So there are programs which are called samskaras in the Eastern tradition. These programs are then fed into what I call energy processing units, which are chakras. These are, think of them as transformers of energy. So they take universal energy and they create specific behaviors and tendencies. And there are 7 of them, and I'll go into that. And what they create then is behaviors. So it's a very simple analogy of program, CPU, output to samskaras, EPU, and behavior. And these are the 7 chakras. And I'll talk about the quality of each chakra because they represent how we progress on the human journey. The lowest chakra, which is the root chakra, is the chakra of survival. When this chakra is not fully functioning well, then the primary state of consciousness you feel is fear. 80% or maybe 90% of humanity is just working with their first chakra, where they are constantly afraid of the world around them. The next chakra, this is the chakra of relationship with oneself. All of us have a self-concept, the way we see ourselves. We may see ourselves as good people or bad people. We have these notions, right? And when this chakra is blocked, the state of consciousness is unworthiness, guilt, and shame. Because you feel like you don't measure up and there is something wrong with you. The third chakra is relationship with others. This is where interpersonal relationships or group dynamic comes into the picture. And when this is blocked, people experience unhealthy relationships. An example of unhealthy relationship is when you want to dominate others and just want them to do whatever you want them to do. Another example of unhealthy relationship, which is the opposite, is when you become a doormat and let others do what they want to do. And I see this a lot in this country where, especially with women, there is a lot of this programming where they are taught to be, if they grew up in church and things like that, they are taught to be this perfect wife who listens to every demand of their husband, and that's how they are supposed to be. And what that does is it's a deeply disempowering way of living, and it blocks their energy. So when you begin to work on yourself and you begin to work with energy, here is what happens. The first chakra, when it begins to open up, instead of fear, you go to the state of trust. Trusting yourself, trusting the universe, trusting that life has a plan for you and things are going to work out. Now, this is so liberating because unless you have trust, you are constantly afraid, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Everything can go wrong. You can get hurt. The people you love can get hurt. There is this constant mental trauma of fear playing in your mind. If you go to trust, you know that things will work out. There is nothing to struggle about. And if you go to that state, that struggle of life kind of ends because you are not struggling anymore. When the second chakra unblocks, we go from things like shame and guilt and unworthiness to self-acceptance. Now, all of us have done things in life that we are not proud of. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I have done so many stupid things in my life. But at what point do we give ourselves the permission to accept ourselves? What if we gave that permission to ourselves? It's okay, whoever we are, as we talked about non-duality, we are a unique expression of source energy. If we are that powerful, why can't we accept ourselves? The third chakra leads to healthy relationships, where you have the power to honor others as well as yourself in a relationship. That's a healthy relationship, where you are not letting others walk over you, but at the same time, you are not trying to dominate and control them. It's a spiritual partnership. Whether it's in marriage, whether it's in your business, whatever you do, if you reach that stage, you begin to have a harmonious relationship with people around you. The fourth chakra is the chakra of love. When this chakra is blocked, what people experience is lack of love for themselves and others. And if there is one big problem with our planet, it's this problem. People cannot love themselves and they cannot love others. And that's why they have all this trauma that they keep creating. To give you an example, think of greed. What is greed? It's a kind of insecurity where you think that you need to have more and more and more before you become satisfied. And if you think about it, you never reach a point where you're satisfied. If I look at Musk, he's the world's richest man. Is he financially secure? I don't think so. He's constantly doing crazy things to make more money. But you can reach, the point is, if you unblock this fourth chakra, it begins to give you the state of unconditional love. And this is an amazing state where you feel love, not because you want anything from somebody else. This is how you are. Now, most of human work happens in unblocking these 4 chakras, just like the rocket, which takes most of its fuel to break out of Earth's gravity. Most of the spiritual work, inner work, and working with meditation and energy, the goal of that work is to unlock these 4 chakras. Once you unlock them, you are at a stage of peace. And that's where you can go to higher stages. The next one, which is the 5th chakra, is the chakra of inspired communication. This is also a place of creativity. This is where your words carry power to create, to pull people to a different way of living, to inspire them. The next chakra is the chakra of spiritual vision. This is called third eye. This is also the place of psychic abilities. Now, spiritual vision, think about it. All of us have a vision for our life. That vision may not be explicit, but we know where we are going. Whether we are trying to advance materially, we are trying to start a company, we are trying to build a spiritual organization, whatever that is, there is a vision that is driving us. The point is, we may not have the right vision when this chakra is blocked. We think from a very low perspective. And finally, the highest chakra, which is the crown chakra, is the chakra of unity consciousness. And this is the state of oneness. If you study mystics, they talk about the experience of samadhi. What is samadhi? Samadhi is the direct experience of oneness. It's not something that can be communicated through words. It's something you feel. Yeah. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Kuldeep, you can continue,
okay,
please.
All right. So let's keep going. So I talked about the reason I told you about these chakras is these are ways you can look at your own life and answer the question, where am I stuck? If you ask yourself a question, what is my primary state of consciousness? And if you think about what is blocking me, you'll find one of these 7 things where you can see where the block is happening. And what this energy does, okay, we were talking about the model. So in the Eastern tradition, the second thing I want to talk about is samskaras, which, as I said, are energetic programs that drive your life. And these samskaras are gathered over many, many lifetimes. And let me give you an example from a real life example. I worked with somebody, she had severe difficulty expressing herself. So we did a guided meditation, and what we found is that she was an intuitive, born in like 16th or 17th century. The problem was, at that time, if you had any intuitive abilities in the West, you were called a witch, and they had this whole procedure of basically killing you. So she had a very traumatic death because of these abilities, and now she comes in this lifetime where she's still carrying this blockage in her energy field because she thinks it's not safe to express yourself. So using energy, I was able to clear that blockage, and that unlocked the next stage in her evolution. So these samskaras, these are like seeds. And what a seed does is, if it finds the right circumstances, it's going to create effects from that seed. So if you have a tomato seed, for example, you take the tomato seed, you keep it with apple seeds for 100 years, and then you plant it in an apple garden. What's going to come out? Tomato. So these samskaras are qualities that we have gathered in different lifetimes. And what happens is in this lifetime, they begin to express their own energies. So here is the million-dollar question. If you have a tomato seed, and if you want to destroy the tomato-ness within that seed, what are you going to do? And the answer is you use energy in the form of heat. If you roast that seed, the seed loses its creative power. And then when you plant that seed, nothing will come out of it. So the very thing works with samskaras. You use a special form of energy called intelligent energy to manipulate these samskaras. Now, the reason I'm calling this intelligent energy is this is a template that is already aware of the human system. Now, this is not the God that created you. This is the intelligence that you are, which is embedded in our energy field. If you think of your DNA, as I gave the example, DNA is a form of intelligent energy because it knows one molecule knows how to create an entire human body. Isn't that amazing? It's the same way with intelligent energy. I'm going to use three terms here which refer to the same thing, but they give different perspective. So the first term I'm going to use is intelligent energy, and that focuses on the creative aspect of source. That is, there is an intelligence that creates the entire universe. The second term that is often used is called the quantum field. This is a more scientific term. There is a field which creates the entire universe, and that's called the quantum field. The third term that I'm going to use, which I got from my teacher, is Divine Mother. It's the same thing. When I say Divine Mother, I'm not talking about a goddess in heaven. I'm talking about an intelligence and energy that is present in every cell of your being. It's not something outside of you, it's within. And I have a picture of Divine Mother here. So the interpretation I want to give you is in terms of energy. So if we start at the beginning, there's a source of energy, which is pure energy and nothing else. Now, for creation to happen, that source splits from pure energy to divine masculine and divine feminine. So this is an energetic split and energetic qualities. And the example I want to give you is if you think of individuation versus wholeness. We have an experience of being individual human beings. If there was no individuation, we would not have this experience. The other aspect of it is wholeness, where we feel our connectedness to each other. If there was no wholeness, we would just be isolated individuals who would never be able to connect with each other in any spiritual and meaningful way. So both wholeness and individuation are needed for this manifestation to happen. So Divine Mother represents the wholeness, and Divine Masculine represents individuation. So once again, these are qualities of energies. And Divine Mother can be thought of as the feminine or the creative aspect of Source. And this is where technology comes into play. As I said, my teacher, John, after meditating for 30, 40 years, he finally got to a point where he could perceive this field, which is called Divine Mother, and channel energy from that dimension. Now, this is not unique to him. If you look at people like Ramakrishna Paramahansa, if you look at his life, he was constantly in touch with what he called Mother. And it was a creative intelligence that he used to talk to her like a human being. Now, that doesn't mean that Divine Mother is just a human being. It's a field of intelligence which is accessible to all of us. So what I have done is I have created a meditation, which is funny how it was created, because this meditation is not something that I have learned or I have created using my rational mind. This meditation came to me as a channeled message. Now, some of you may know about channeling. It's a state of being where you can transmit energy from a higher dimension directly into this dimension. So I have created a meditation which is called Stairway of Light. And what that meditation does, it infuses each of your chakras. We talked about the 7 chakras. It infuses all of your chakras with intelligent energy from Divine Mother. Now, here's the thing. To receive the energy, you do not have to do anything special. Just be fully present and be here and relax. And I'll bring up the meditation track. So all you have to do is be here. Don't be distracted by things on your browser, whatever. Once we do the meditation, at the end of it, I'll talk about, you can share your experiences. Now, let me preface this. Based on your own nervous system, some of you may feel the energy, some of you may not feel the energy, which is perfectly okay. When I started this journey, I wasn't sensitive to energy. But over a couple of years, I became more and more sensitive. And ultimately, I reached a stage where I can directly work with this energy to create these meditations. So some of you may not feel a thing. That's perfectly okay. Just be present with this energy for the next 15 minutes, and the energy will do the work. At the least, you would feel a sense of peace that comes over you. All right, so 1 second. Okay. So we are going to do Stairway of Light meditation. And before we do the meditation, I'm going to invite Divine Mother to be with us. Again, she is not outside of us. It's not like she's somewhere and she's connecting with us. It's a field within. So connecting with that field is even a misnomer because it's already present. We are eternally connected to that field. But I'll invite her to be with us, and then I'll play the meditation. So there's a simple invocation that I do. I'll just do the meditation for all of us. Dear Divine Mother, who comes in the name of divine truth, wholeness, love, compassion, and totality, please be with us now. Please be with everybody on this call and on the recording, and transmit energies that are most appropriate for each person's evolution. Thank you. Okay, so close your eyes and we will do the meditation.
Sit comfortably with your spine erect and the body completely relaxed. If you are sitting in a chair, put your feet flat on the floor. Breathe and let your body become completely relaxed. Gently close your eyes. Set the intention to accelerate your spiritual evolution. Let's begin with an invocation to Divine Mother, who's the feminine aspect of Source. Dear Divine Mother, who comes in the name of divine truth, wholeness, love, compassion, and totality, please be with us now for the purpose of accelerating spiritual growth. Please guide this process so that it unfolds in the highest way. let us prepare the space for energetic work with 3 cleansing breaths. Take a deep breath through the nose and imagine that the incoming breath opens your heart chakra. Exhale through the mouth and imagine you are expelling all energies that have low vibration. Take another deep breath through the nose and imagine it opens your heart chakra further. As you exhale through the mouth, imagine that you are expelling all energies that do not align with your highest purpose. Take the third deep breath through the nose. The breath opens your heart chakra completely. As you exhale, you are now in a clear space that enables you to connect to higher dimensions. As you relax, become aware of your body and your heart. As you focus on your heart, imagine a speck of brilliant white light at its center. This speck is the light of source energy. As you examine the speck, it begins to grow. It becomes a ball of light which fills your heart and heals it completely. Slowly, the light expands in your torso, arms, legs, and head till it fills your entire body. The light heals and purifies your body at the cellular level. You now realize that you are a being of light, timeless and indestructible. Your human form is merely a garment. Breathe and relax. As you experience perfect harmony with this moment, you see a stairway of light in front of you. Your higher self and guides have offered this stairway to accelerate your spiritual evolution. The first step on the stairway is trust. Climb the step and affirm, "I trust the universe to take care of my needs on the physical journey." Breathe and let the divine light of trust infuse your energy field. The light dissolves all of your fears about safety and security. The light helps you see the universe as your partner on the human journey. You are now empowered to trust yourself and your path. The next step is self-acceptance. Climb the step and affirm, "I accept myself fully and unconditionally." Breathe. Let the divine light of spiritual worth infuse your energy field. The light dissolves all patterns of unworthiness, shame, and guilt. You are now empowered to honor all parts of yourself and explore the creation as a being of divine worth. The next step is ownership of your power. Climb the step and affirm, I acknowledge and honor my power. Breathe. Let the divine light of spiritual power infuse your energy field. The light dissolves all patterns of power imbalance, including powerlessness and the need to have power over others. You are now empowered to create relationships, both with yourself and others, founded upon honor and respect. Your relationships will become a playground of great joy. The next step is love. Climb the step and affirm, I unconditionally love myself and all of creation. Breathe. Let the divine light of love infuse your energy field. The light dissolves all patterns of withholding love from yourself and others. You are now a channel of divine love and can share your heart with generosity. The next step is inspired communication and expression. Climb the step and affirm, I choose to be an instrument of harmony and beauty. Breathe and let the divine light of inspired expression infuse your energy field. The light empowers you to express your highest truth through your work and communication. You are now a channel for higher energies to create harmony and beauty. The next step is spiritual vision. Climb the step and affirm, I choose to follow the highest spiritual vision for myself and others. Breathe and let the divine light of spiritual vision infuse your energy field. The light empowers you to lead yourself and others to joy and higher consciousness. You are now a channel for divine energies to lead humanity to love and light. The final step on the stairway is unity consciousness. Climb the step and affirm, I am one with source energy. Breathe and let the divine light of oneness infuse your energy field. This light dissolves all patterns of separation and limitation. You can now experience yourself one with all of consciousness. Breathe and let the energies from higher dimensions transform your spiritual core. These energies have become part of your being and will stay with you forever. As you experience this leap in consciousness, deep gratitude arises in your heart. You realize that all that is has supported you unconditionally and will always support you. Thank the universe for giving you the gift of human experience. As you experience perfect harmony with this moment, bring your awareness back to the body. You are back in your body now. Take a minute to slowly come out from this meditation. When you are ready, gently open your eyes.
Take a few seconds to come out slowly. Okay, how was the experience?
It was a fantastic experience, Kuldeep. It's hard to speak immediately after the meditation, but because we're running short with time, I'll maybe start with a few questions and then I'll open the floor for everybody.
Sure.
First of all, thank you so much, Kuldeep, for sharing this with us. It was not just a lot of knowledge and understanding, but it was for me, it was a deep emotional experience. Many of the things that you have talked about, I have either experienced some of those things or read about some of those things, but you put it in a way that is very, very accessible for most people and in a very rational way that we can connect with, very, very appropriate for the audience here. So thank you so much for putting this effort and sharing this. This is one of the most valuable things I find, because no matter what we achieve in life, I have noticed it's a cycle. Like sooner or later, or different times of our lives, all the paths are eventually coming back to the spirituality. Like what we have heard from scriptures or from Munis and Rishis, I reflect on them and then realize they are actually right. So I will ask a few questions here, quick
Sure.
ones. Huh?
Mhm.
So one quick question here I would ask. This is fantastic that we got a chance to listen to you, and it's a unique experience, very deep experience. Not only because of the quality of your talk and the effect of it, but also because we know you as a person, so it's a very different experience. But what happens usually is that we get tasked, we get motivated, we maybe pick up some of your guided meditation. We do this a few days. What usually happens is we go back to the routine, right? It's usual that we lose the motivation. We get busy and we think that we don't have time, and then we somehow forget. So what will be your advice that will keep us right on track?
Thank you. I think that's a that's a common problem that people have. And it's been magnified with just the amount of information that we are drowning in these days. There's constantly more to do, more to consume, just too much in our lives. So what I have found useful is to create a daily routine where the first thing when you wake up, do this simple meditation. At the end, I'll put a link where you can download this MP3 or any other meditation. If this doesn't resonate with you, that's okay with me. But set that discipline of meditating the first thing in the morning. And what it does is it puts you in the right frame. And the other thing is, if you keep doing this, it becomes a part of your routine. So when I wake up now, I don't even think about meditating. My body is already in a state where it goes into meditation, and it's as natural as brushing your teeth. So there's no struggle about whether I should meditate or not meditate, and all. It just happens right after waking up. So first thing I would advise is create a routine. The second thing is we have to really be mindful of how we are living our lives, and in particular, what we let into our lives. Most people have no barriers. Anything can come in their lives. It's social media, it's people, it's information, it's TV, it's internet. And as a result of this attention fragmentation, they don't have the energy to accomplish anything of value. So this is a very practical part of it, and I don't know what barriers will work for you. You might want to disconnect internet or like 1 hour before sleep, or you might find something that works for you. So see what works for you, but you need to be conscious of how you're spending your time, how you're spending your money and your resources, because if you're not conscious, you'll be stuck in this loop where years go by and you just wonder what happened to my years. The third thing I would say is the best part, that's my long-term vision, is to create a community of people who align with these principles. And because community gives you the support that you cannot have on your own. It's people who come together, and they may come together just for a simple practice of meditating every week. But if they keep doing it, the community grows on them and they feel they are part of something. So that's my long-term vision.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Well, maybe a follow-up to that. It's very interesting that the part of the meditation with energy is something I've of course heard of it in different ways, but you put it in a very concrete way. Now, many of us would be very tempted to try this one out because the contemplative one is the most common one, I think, and we have tried this. I'm sure many of us tried this, and then it's a lot of struggle, right? So if we want to get introduced to this and follow this, especially with the organization that you are running, can you tell us a little bit how can we get started with that?
Sure. If you just want to do this meditation, I'll put a link where you can download this MP3, and you can do it on your own time. What I would recommend is I have also created an organization called Children of Infinity, which comes from the idea of non-duality, that we are parts of infinity. And that organization has different opportunities to come together as a community. There are events that we host. Again, it's still in the early stages, so my goal is to grow it across different chapters. But you can join that, and then you'll have access to the community, which can help you. The other thing I want to say is timing. I'm also organizing a 7-day self-healing challenge. where you'll get to work with this energy for 7 days. And the meditation we did is just one of the tools. Think of your toolbox. There are many, many tools. So that challenge starts on September 7th. You don't have to attend live. You can just watch the videos every day whenever you have time, but it will go deeper into the different tools that I have. And hopefully at the end of 7 days, you would have created a consistent daily practice. You would also get a chance to interact with other people in the community and hopefully find people who are close to you with whom you can connect.
Fantastic. This is great. This is very much on time, right? So our timing couldn't have been better because it's just coming up, right? The next question I would ask about, well, it's like the power of now, right? So as you mentioned, what we do, how we react, how we behave, it is being driven by sanskaras, right? Emotions and tendencies that we have very deep inside us. And they're kind of determining it. There is no space of free will or my wish or how I want it to happen. That kind of gets lost in this huge, strong force and flow. So the only way to break out of this is the awareness of the present moment. Right? And that's, if you are not aware of the present moment, you don't have the ability to do anything, right? It has to do with mindfulness. So of course, the meditation can help you because it's practice. Even if you understand that I have to be mindful, but you won't be able to do it because you don't have the practice of it. So meditation helps in that. But nevertheless, can you share something about this importance and how we can achieve it?
Thank you. It's a chicken and an egg problem. If you're not aware, you won't be doing spiritual work. And if you don't do spiritual work, you can't be aware. So people are stuck in this loop. Okay. So the way you can break this pattern is creating time to be in silence, maybe just 5 minutes a day. And asking yourself the question, where am I going? Any inquiry will work, where you ask a simple question, how was my day? What did I do that I could have done better? Then there is also a higher level thinking of, where am I going as an individual? Where's the direction of my life? Now, these kind of questions take some more time, and it's not easy. And the way I have been able to do it is find a couple of hours, either every week or every 2 or 3 weeks, where for 1 hour, you can sit with yourself without distractions. And all you do is take a notebook and write things, because what writing does is it connects you to your higher self, and you'll begin to see there's a higher intelligence that comes through. So if you could take that 1 hour, maybe we can do that as a group exercise someday, where for 1 hour, we can get together 1 hour without distractions, and I can guide people, and I'll do the exercise myself about the big questions of life. The problem is we get so tied up in the little things that we don't think about the big questions. It's kids and job and health problems and parents, just taking care of things rather than really designing our life and thinking about, where exactly do I want to go? What is my purpose at this point?
Yeah, very good. My last question before I open it up. What I have noticed is that people who have never practiced anything, neither meditation or anything, it is hard for them to even go forward because there is doubt. They don't believe in anything. They have not experienced anything. So they wonder, why shall I waste my time? They could think of it as a religious bullshit or superstition or whatever, simply because they have not experienced. Now, many of us, I myself also have had some spiritual experiences. This mostly came through meditation, in deep states of meditation. And you go through like glimpses. It's not really samadhi or oneness, complete oneness with everything or source, but some other manifestations of it. And these are very overwhelming experiences. Once you go through this, then you are very motivated. Then you realize, oh my God, there is something out there that is so powerful that I had no clue about. And then you are, much more motivated. So what would you say in this group, for example, for the absolute beginners, how can they, motivate themselves to even start?
So what I would say is, it's like planting a seed. If I give you a seed and you don't know how a seed works, it's just a piece of material and you don't know what it's capable of. If I guide you through a process where you plant it and you nurture it for a certain period of time, the seed begins to manifest and it will create something that you can see. So what I recommend is, there is a period of 40 days, which is typically in yoga, it's called a mandala, because 40 days is where your energetic patterns begin to change. So 40 days, I can put a link, or I can even guide one session in future where we can all start on day 1. And then we can go for a period of 40 days where every day, all we have to do is every day do that meditation. So it's a 15-minute everyday commitment. Morning is the best. If you can't do morning, then right before going to sleep also you can do it, because the energy works even when you are sleeping. So, and we can do that if people are interested, or the other way is, if you are self-motivated and you want to do it on your own, that's also an option.
That's fantastic.
So
I
you
think
have
that's
to,
really
the problem is you have to give it time before you start seeing result. And if you don't give it time, then you don't see results and then you become discouraged.
correct. And I think you are absolutely right that having a community is very, very helpful, to community with people that you can trust. And yes, fantastic. Thanks a lot, Kuldeep. I will now open the floor for everybody to ask questions. Please go ahead.
So, Ovi, Raman, I'll start first. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Kuldeep. So first of all, this was all music to my ears. I mean, I just cannot express. I've been, I told Obi as well that I'm going through my own self-discovery and all of that. And by the way, I don't know if you can see this. I'm actually looking forward to read this book. This is something I found somewhere, and this is Rahman's Obi's book as well. So I'm reading through all of this. I've been doing meditation for last 9 months every day. I don't think I've missed a single day. And chakras was something I've done a few times. I have a coach from India that I do it, and looking forward to it. And I'm actually would be very looking forward to any additional sessions that you do. So thank you so much. I just don't have any questions. I'm looking to learn more on chakra meditation big time. Thank you.
And there is a synchronicity in this universe where the right things come your way if you are open.
Absolutely.
And you are a perfect example of that.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is even going through this lesson, this session is because I think whatever I'm doing, and I started believing in universe and universe energy. When I've done some of the chakra meditation, I feel something different. So I know this is something for me. And I bought this book. I was on a solo trip, went to a bookstore and I found it. I was like, okay, I have to read this, learn more about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Kuldeep.
Hi, Nitin.
Nitin here. Hi. Amazing session, Kuldeep. So I'll share some experience of this meditation that we did. Initially, when we started, there were a lot of thoughts going around in my mind, like the day, how it went. Like yesterday, I arrived in Saudi Arabia, so a lot of things going on in my mind, right? But slowly and slowly, as it guided towards moving further step above, the moment it went to the highest level, somehow all the people who were there in my mind, they started looking like me. I don't know how it happened, but somehow it felt that everyone that I was thinking about, my mind was thinking about, it started merging into one single entity. And it's so powerful, it's so amazing. I can't express in words. But this is probably my first experience of getting, that spiritually enlightened, whatever you call it. And I'm really looking forward to go this path, right? So thank you, Kuldeep. This has been a really, really amazing session for me, at least.
Thank you. And that's the whole point of non-duality. It's not a concept we talk about. It's something you experience. And you experienced it because everybody else is actually an extension of your own being.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Kuldeep. Panda here.
Panda, go ahead.
This is a great session. I had one question. You made an interesting analogy when you were talking about technology helping us improve our lives.
Yes.
But overdoing of technology everywhere, has like, I see it everywhere, like capitalist world or whatever we can say. But overdoing
Yes.
anything has led to, bad outcomes.
Yes.
Since meditation you equated with technology, have you, thought about that anywhere, or have you experienced that in any way?
Thank you. Great question. So this is what I call intelligence and intelligent energy. And the point is, it does not arise from human dimension. It's sort of a gift that we have received from a higher dimension. So this technology, you cannot really overdo this technology in that sense. It has its own intelligence. It will work in its own way. And what I've seen with this meditation is, depending on where people are, the meditation works differently. Somebody who's just getting started, they will have a completely different experience of this meditation versus people who have been meditating for 20, 30 years. They have a completely different. So it's an intelligence which is self-guided in that sense. So it's not technology that we have created. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, kind of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have one question, Kuldeep. If someone has to, let's say, start the journey now, uh, there are multiple paths that you could choose, right? Where do we start? Like, what is the first step towards that?
So
Is there
I put a link. Thank you I put a link here, which is 7 day. It's a free challenge. So for 7 days, I'll be guiding you from step 1 to step 7. And it's free to attend. When you click on this, the next page will give you an option to upgrade. Don't upgrade. Just go with the free challenge. And starting with September 7, there'll be daily lessons and meditations, which will take you deeper and deeper into this knowledge. And the reason I designed this challenge is precisely for this reason. There is just so much information and things that people get confused. So this challenge is designed for beginners to start with basic understanding. And then every day we'll be doing a different meditation and we'll be going into different aspects.
So can we kind of create maybe another WhatsApp group or whatever, like for spiritual, all of this, where this information can come, or is it like, should we go to everyone? I mean, I just don't want to spam everyone for all this, questions and everything.
We can create a separate group. I don't know, it's a very small group compared to everybody in the huge group, right? So I don't want to spam them, but we can put an invitation out. We can put an invitation out if people want to join this and maybe do a group meditation together. I can guide you.
Yes. Yeah. I think it might be helpful for, like, you said the 40-day program and all of that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Whoever is really interested can join the group. And
Yes.
that way, like I may have questions in future, like 2 months down the line, like you can, ask those questions. And me being in Arizona, I would actually like to visit and, to understand, learn more about all of this. So would be good to have that constant, that community that we can create.
Yeah, sure.
Guys, any other questions, comments, feedback?
Well, not a question, but just a request. Kuldeep, you listed a lot of books that
Yes.
look very interesting. I'm sure a lot of people want to read those books. If you can just send a link with all the books that you think are great to start getting started. I'm mostly a self-learner, so I like to read books and get into it. So that would be great if you can.
Sure.
I think need for another that community group, so that all that information can come. That will help.
Yes, I think it's a very good idea. I had the thought also in my mind.
Yeah.
We have an AI group. We can open up a spirituality group and then organize all of these things. Absolutely.
I have just one comment to make, which Panda just said about the book, right? So one book that I am reading right now. It's written by Kuldeep, and I have just finished reading 25% of it. And it has been like, usually I'm a very slow reader, but this he's written it so structured way. It has been like a breeze, though it is a very complex subject. But the way Kuldeep has, used very simple definition, neither gone very deep into one particular thing nor left out anything. So for me, it's been like a breeze reading this, and I strongly recommend at least let's start with this this book. And of course, in the book also he has referred to many other books. I think it's a very very good
session itself.
Yeah.
This session itself is a proof of what you are suggesting about Dixit. It was a breeze. It was so well structured, so well thought through and well read, so well referenced, and very engaging actually. So मुझे लग रहा है कि वो book भी वैसे ही होगी.
बिल्कुल बहुत solid लिखा है यार. I'm going to
he comes across as a very very strong teacher that we missed in IT यार.
40 more years यार. We still have him.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, guys, if you don't have any other questions or comments, I think we should give Kuldeep a break. It has been a couple hours. It just went by so fast. It's amazing. So thank you so much, Kuldeep. It was really great to have you. And yeah, we're looking forward to, engaging with you further in the spirituality group. I'll take care of that. And thanks everybody for your active participation. It has been a mind-blowing, very deeply emotional experience for me. Thank you very much.
Same here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Kuldeep.
Thank you, guys.
And
This
thank you,
was
Obi, for
you.
arranging this.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.